All right, today now we are going to go into perpendicular lines. So, writing linear equations of perpendicular lines. We will still be given an equation and a point. Okay, so first off, let's just quickly review. Remember, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope, b is the y-intercept. Perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocal slopes. Now, just so we kind of know what we're talking about, what we want to make sure is if I draw a line on my graph, a perpendicular to that would come in at a right angle. So there is a rule to it. Perpendicular lines intersect at a right angle. So in order for that to happen, they have to have opposite, which means that we switch the sign, and reciprocal, which means we flip it. Okay, so we switch the sign and flip in order to get the slope of a perpendicular. Okay, so the steps to doing this then. The first one is we list the slope of the original and the slope perpendicular to it. Remember, these should be opposite reciprocals, meaning opposite sign and flip the fraction. Now we plug the point and the perpendicular slope into the equation. We solve the equation for b, then we plug the perpendicular slope and the y-intercept into the equation, and that would make your answer. All right, so let's just practice. So I have my equation. Remember, my equation is y equals mx plus b. So we're looking for the x, and the slope, remember, is what's attached to it. So when I look, my slope of my given line is 2/3. So now, the slope of the line perpendicular to that, it's a positive 2/3, so my slope is going to be negative. And then I want the reciprocal, so I want to flip it, so it would be -3/2. My next one, my slope is -5. So the slope of the line perpendicular, it was negative, so it's going to become a positive. And now I'm going to flip it, and it's going to become 1/5. Okay, my slope here is a +1. So the slope of the line perpendicular, it was positive, so now it has to become negative. I take the 1, I flip it, and I still get just 1. Then let's talk the special one. So x equals 8. Remember, that's a vertical line. My slope is undefined. So perpendicular to that, my slope is going to be 0. Because remember, in order to get an undefined slope, you have some number over 0. So when I flip it, the 0 now becomes the numerator, which makes the slope 0. Y equals a -3. That starts off as a horizontal line. My slope is 0, so now when we flip it, it is going to become undefined. Okay? All right, so let's give this a shot then. Let's see what we can do. So we're going to start in. It says, find the line, so perpendicular to y equals 1/2 x. So my slope of my original is 1/2. The slope of the line perpendicular. So we change the sign. That'd be a negative. 1/2, I flip it, it becomes a -2. So now we take that with our point, x comma y. I plug it in, so I get 9 equals -2 times 2 plus b. -2 times 2 is -4 plus b. I'm going to add my 4 to both sides. And I get 13 equals b. So now to write my equation, y equals -2x plus 13. Okay, let's try another one. So on this second one, my slope of my original, that is 3. The slope of the perpendicular, remember, it's a +3 to start, so now it's going to be negative. If I take 3 and flip it, make its reciprocal, it becomes -1/3. Now I take my ordered pair, x, y, so -8 equals -1/3 times 6 plus b. So now I start in negative 1/3 times 6. That's going to give me a negative 2 plus b. I'm going to add 2 to both sides, and I end up with negative 6 equals b. So now I take my y-intercept, I take my slope, and I write in y equals negative 1/3 x minus 6. Okay, let's try another one. So here we go, my slope of my original. Remember, attached to x, so my slope of my original would be negative 2/3. The slope of the perpendicular, so instead of a negative, it turns it back positive, and then I take the reciprocal or the flip, and it makes it 3/2. I take my point, x comma y, and I plug that in. So I have 7 is equal to 3/2 times 6 plus b. So that's going to give me 9. So 7 is equal to 9 plus b. I minus 9 from both sides. So negative 2 is equal to b. So now my equation would be y equals 3/2 x minus 2. And there is my equation. And our last one here on these kind, my slope of my original is 1. The slope of the perpendicular is negative 1. Okay, and then I use my point, x comma y. So 2 equals negative times 6 plus b. So that would become negative 6 plus b. So I add my 6 to both sides, and I get 8 equals b. So now I go to my equation, y equals negative x plus 8. And there would be the answer. All right, let's try the two specials that we have then. So here I want to be perpendicular to y equals a number, which means my slope of my original is 0 because it's a horizontal line. So the slope of the perpendicular is going to be undefined because every horizontal line is perpendicular to every vertical line. So that means it's going to be x equals, I look over here, the value of x is 5, so my equation will be x equals 5. Okay, last one here, perpendicular to x equals 4. Remember, the slope of my original is undefined. The slope of the perpendicular would be 0 because every vertical line is perpendicular to every horizontal. So this is y equals, I look over here, y equals 5 from the ordered pair, and that would be my equation of the perpendicular. And that is how we write linear equations of perpendicular lines.